Okay, everyone, let's get started with segment 2. And so for segment 2, I would like for us to spend some time to review quickly at the end of last week. We talked about 3 uses of the present perfect verb tense. So we will do a quick review and look at the workbook, page 125. So I hope that you took a moment to look at this page and try a few of those exercises for practice and review. Okay, so now, depending on how long it takes us to do this quick review, we will also begin a little bit of review for chapters 9 and 10 because our unit test will cover 2 chapters, 9 and 10. So at this time, let's take our white color students' books and let's turn to the page in the workbook, 125. Okay. So before we do that, actually I've turned there already, but before we check it, let's do a quick review. So 3 uses of present perfect. The first one is it began in the past and continues now. So the example that I had given was I have learned to garden over the past 5 years. So I'm still learning. I started in the past, but I'm still learning how to garden. And there is a clue in that sentence, the word over. Over meaning including a time period from some point, from point A to point B. Okay, the second use is an event that happened before now, but it's not clear when exactly did this event happen. So my example I had given was I have lived in China. So in actuality, I lived there from 2006 to 2007. But I didn't tell you in this sentence, I only told you I have lived in China. So it's general, it's not clear, it's vague. So that's the second use of present perfect. The third one, it is used to describe events that were repeated before now. So meaning it started in the past and sometime, maybe an unclear time, that action was repeated more than once, but maybe it's not clear when it happened. So the example I gave, I have eaten Afghani food many times. All right, so those were the 3 uses that we talked about present perfect. So now let's turn to our workbook, page 125, and we'll check together exercise 2 and 3. So in exercise 2, we're going to choose either A, B, or C. A is events that happen in the past and continue now. Okay, B, events that happen in the past but unclear, will be the second example. And C is for events that have been repeated in the past. Okay, let's try it. Example number 1. She's been to in English we say Louvre, the Louvre, but in French, Louvre. My French is really bad. She's been to the Louvre Museum in Paris and has seen the Mona Lisa. So it's B, meaning it's not clear when she went to see that painting. Okay, the second one. I have already visited Alcatraz. I don't want to go again. Okay, so I have visited. Is it clear when this person went to Alcatraz? No. So again, it's B. It's an unclear action. Okay, the third one. The Bradleys have been in Hawaii for 2 weeks. Here we have 4. Remember the specific time period. They'll be back tomorrow. They will. They'll be back tomorrow. So what do you think? Are they there now? They have been in Hawaii for 2 weeks. So they are still there. So we only have one option, which is A. Okay, still happening. The 4th one, we're at the county fair. We've been on the Ferris wheel and we've seen the fireworks. We're at the county fair. So this is the first clue. We are at. It means right now. So again, our answer is A. Yes. Okay, what about number 5? I've read The Lord of the Rings 4 times. I'll probably read it again someday. So, 4 times, more than once. This is a repeated action. So finally, we have our first C answer for number 5. Okay, number 6. We have been standing in line to buy tickets to see adventure for an hour now. Another clue, now. And this word now has a couple different uses. Now, of course, meaning present time at this moment. But I can also say if something began in the recent time and it's still going on, I can also use now to describe that. And the feeling, the implication is that maybe it's still going on and we don't know how long it will be. So what do you think? It's present time, right? So the only answer is A. Okay, number 7. Jim said he and his wife have eaten several meals at that restaurant. And they have all been good. Okay, they have eaten several times. How many times is several? Usually means 3 or 4. But do we know when they ate at the restaurant? No. So it's an unclear time, sometime before now, right? So the only answer could be C, several times. It's a repeated event. Okay, the last one is number 8. I know I've stayed at this hotel before. I have stayed, but I can't remember when. That's another clue. I don't remember when. It's something unclear, but it has happened, but we don't know when. Okay, so your answer is B, I hope. Okay, so a little bit more practice with 3 different uses of present perfect verb tense. All right, try if you can to practice that sometime this week. All right, now the next part is exercise 3, and we want to choose the best answer, multiple choice, A or B. So think about, I'll give you a clue. Look for a time word or any clue in the first sentence. So let's see the example number 1. I've been to New York 3 times. Repeated action, right? So now I want to choose which question would be most appropriate according to the information given in the first part. So what do you think? Well, we have the answer. Do you think you'll go again someday? Okay, so why could I not say B? Why not B? Because how long have you been there implies they are still there right now. but we don't know. This is some unclear time that was repeated in the past. So if I was looking at this part again, my answer would be C, right? But the correct answer, or question rather, is A. So let's try number 2. We've been in Peru for 2 weeks, but we haven't gone to Cusco. We have been for 2 weeks. Okay, still there in Peru, right? So we have 2 options here. Are you still in Peru? Well, we know that's true. Yes, but because I already know they are there, B might be more appropriate. Will you go to Cusco before you leave? Okay, so we talked about last week also before and after. So here we can see that again, before you leave. So leaving will be the last action or the second action. So we use before in that case. So far so good. What about number 3? I visited Loch Ness in Scotland, but I didn't see the monster. I have visited. We don't know when. It's not clear. Sounds like the third one here, right? Or maybe, sorry, the second one. The second one, not clear. So we know that information. So would you choose A or B? When did you go there, or how long have you been there? B, no. B indicates they are still there. So we must choose A. When did you go there? Or maybe I could say, will you go again? All right, so number 4. We're in Tokyo now. Now, it's my clue. So A, how long did you stay there? Meaning past, finished. And B, how long have you been there? B is correct, implying that, we are still in Tokyo right now. So number 4 is B. Number 5, we haven't been to Nova Scotia yet. Remember, yet means maybe we will go in the future. But we have not been yet. So what's the best question to ask? A, when did you go there? Or B, do you want to go? Yes. Ironically, I have been to Nova Scotia for 1 week. Okay, I didn't tell you when, so I'm using this one. It's not clear, but I will tell you. I went to Nova Scotia in the summer of 1997. Okay, it's a very interesting story. I was singing around the Canadian Maritime provinces, so Prince Edward Island, Nova Scotia, and New Brunswick on the east coast of Canada. Very good memories. Okay, so what about you? Do you want to go to Nova Scotia? It's a very beautiful place with beautiful music. And the last one, number 6. I've visited the museum more than once, but I haven't seen everything. Okay, more than once. This is a clue. Repeated action. This will be our third use here, right? So which question is more appropriate? A, how many times have you been there? Or B, how long have you been there? B indicates you are still there, right? But we know that this is something that I have done in the past many times, not now. So the only possible choice would be A, right? Okay, so how did you do for this workbook practice? I hope that it's helpful for you to use this workbook. And I think it's also another way for us to do more review and have more chance to understand and practice. So we will probably use the workbook some more for the remainder of our term for homework assignments. And as we go over some of the units, previous units, we may look at this again. Okay, so very quickly, let's talk about the grammar that we have learned in units 9 and 10. So I'm thinking you can't see all of that, so I might need to hold it up. But in unit 9, previous unit, we talked about emergency or dangerous situations in the community. And you wrote for me a true story about an emergency situation. And I believe I have finished all of those scores. So I hope that you saw my feedback. But in Unit 9, we talked about the past continuous tense. And we also used the clause words when and while. Okay, we did some review already for that grammar. Okay, now in Unit 10, we have talked about conditionals using if, and we also talked about future clauses using before and after. So remember, after we used to introduce the first event, and before we used to introduce the second event. All right, so let me put this down. So that's a quick summary of what we talked about for the grammar points in units 9 and 10. So also we did our listening practice. We had a lot of vocabulary, some idioms. And so at this time, depending on how much time we have left, let's get to our green students' books. Pardon me. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Unit 9 very briefly and point out to you the vocabulary that we focused on. So turn with me to page 111, 111. We talked about phrasal verbs also. So we had, for example, broke into or break into. Come over. It's another phrasal verb. Come over to my house. We talked about crime, this noun. Got in or get in. Mess is the noun. Mess or messy, adjective. Robbed is past tense action. I was robbed. And then the person is a robber. Robber. The pronunciation is actually first syllable stress. Rubber. We also saw stole, past tense for steal. And then the adjective worried. Worried. So we listened to about the criminals breaking in and the emergency phone call with the neighbor, if you remember that. Okay, and so then the past continuous, we talked about using questions and making statements. For example, what was Beth doing yesterday morning? And then we did some practice together about discussing what were you doing in the past. So remember, past continuous is a past action that was repeated in the past. So, for example, when I lived in Vancouver, I was teaching ESL and helping international students. I use the past continuous to describe that action repeated over time in the past. All right, and so we talked about the difference between past continuous and simple past. And when we did that, we also introduced when and while. So remember that when, pardon me, it's my alarm to help me not talk too long. So remember, we use when to talk about an action that interrupted. So meaning it caused the interruption. Okay. We use while in the past continuous to talk about the action that was happening before the interruption. So the example here, when the fire started, Maxine and Joel were sleeping. They were interrupted from their sleep. Okay, and then the second action, the fire started. Okay, now, so I think what we can do at the beginning of segment 3 for today is we can continue to do a little bit more review and prepare for the test. So, and then when we start day 2, I will introduce the test and I will send it to you first. So before we start the day 2 videos, please try to print the test, and then I will do the listening part with you and make sure you understand everything about the test, and then we will check it. Okay, so to prepare for segment 3, maybe you can go back and quickly skim through units 9 and 10 for a little bit of self-review. Okay, I will see you in a few moments.